Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bristol, Tennessee Planning Commission for this meeting of April the 19th, 2021. The first thing we'll do is have roll call.
Kelly Graham,
Here.
Malin Luttrell,
Here.
Mark Webb, absent. Margaret Fire Robin,
Here.
Jason Boer,
Here.
Takai Shu,
Here.
Joel Staton is here. Scott Gaynor,
Here.
Kevin Buck.
Here.
We have all but one, sir.
Thank you, kind sir. We will now have a discussion of the necessity for conducting this meeting electronically. Counselor, you're up.
Thank you, Chairman. As you all know, we are conducting meetings electronically these days because Governor Lee has allowed us to do so under an emergency executive order. As long as the Planning Commission feels that it's necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting can be conducted electronically rather than in person. At this point, if Planning Commission needs to have any discussion on this matter, they should do so. Otherwise, there should be a roll call vote, a motion, a second, and roll call vote as to whether Planning Commission agrees that it's necessary to conduct the meeting electronically.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion? Motion, please.
Make a motion that we approve to allow this meeting to be conducted electronically.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second, please?
Second.
And Kevin does the second. Roll call.
Just a minute. Kelly Graham,
Yes.
Malin Luttrell,
Yes.
Joel Staton is yes. Jason Boer,
Yes.
Kevin Buck,
Yes.
Scott Gaynor,
Yes.
Takai Shu,
Yes.
Mark Webb is absent. Margaret Fire Robin,
Yes.
thank you very much.
The next thing we're going to do is the approval of minutes. But before we get to that, if anybody is watching on either YouTube or the television and they want to discuss anything with the Planning Commission that is not on the agenda, please feel free to call in the number that is on the screen. I assume it's on the screen. I don't have it on my TV. So you may do that now, but we'll give you time to do that in just a minute. Approval of minutes. You've got your minutes in front of you. Any changes, additions, or corrections? Hearing, seeing none. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
Thank you,
from
ma'am.
Last month.
A second.
And City Council has made the motion and the second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Kelly Graham,
Yes.
Malin Luttrell,
Yes.
Joel Staton is yes. Jason Boer,
Yes.
Kevin Buck,
Yes.
Scott Gaynor,
Yes.
Takai Shu,
Yes.
Mark Webb is absent. Margaret Fire Robin,
Yes.
thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is unscheduled comments from the public. Can I assume we've not had any phone calls? Mr. Beavers?
That would be Mr. Varney could ask, but we do not have anybody in attendance for public comment at the annex, and Mr. Shane can ask and see if there's any phone calls, but if you could take a that'll work.
Okay, under new business, concept plan review. And again, if there's anybody that is watching that wants to call in to discuss this, I would go ahead and make the phone call, but we're going to go ahead and have concept plan review. As always, anything involving the Pinnacle, I do not participate in it because of prior relationships with the Pinnacle. Kevin Buck also is in the same situation. So neither one of us will be participating in either the discussion or the voting. So we're going to turn it over to Joel. It's all yours.
Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is the concept plan for review. Mr. Beavers, would you like to detail this?
Yes, Mr. Secretary, up for consideration by Planning Commission is the concept site plan for a car wash out at the Pinnacle. Bill Prince with Burwell Construction Company is here as a representative of the project if you have questions for him at the appropriate time. It's located 1415 Highway 11W, and it's in the planned business district, in a planned business district. So that is why you're considering it tonight, is because of that zoning designation. With that, I'll let Ms. Young give the details on the project.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I'll start with just some general information on the project. And Tim, if you don't mind, just go to slide, or yeah, the next one. What we are looking at tonight is a one-story commercial building. It's approximately 4,553 square feet. And as Mr. Beaver said, the concept plan is submitted and it's being reviewed tonight by the Planning Commission because it is located in the planned business district zone. Once this concept plan and the site plan is approved fully, the project will be required to comply with the design standards. And those are the new regulations that are included in Chapter 4A of the Zoning Ordinance. So first up, we'll see a map, location map and zoning map that shows the location of this parcel. So here you can see the outline of the project area in red, and you can see that this area is zoned PBD, as is the remainder of the Pinnacle project. So it is zoned PBD here along Highway 11W and Pinnacle Parkway. And then the next slide, I know this one's hard to see, but you've got a copy of this included in your packet, but this shows just an excerpt from the plan. So this shows you the concept of what the car wash site plan will look like. And then we can refer back to this as we go, but here's a site photo. So this is standing in Pinnacle Park, or on Highway 11W. So this is looking at the project area. So you can see the entrance sign to the Pinnacle on the right, just on the right-hand side of the screen. And then the next photo shows standing from on Pinnacle Parkway, looking towards 11W, towards Bojangles, Verizon, Pals, and you can see the site in the foreground here. So I'll zip through just a couple of the elements here that we look at when we recommend a concept plan to the Planning Commission. Ingress, egress, and off-street parking. There is access proposed from both Highway 11W and Stevens Trail. I think that should read Pinnacle Parkway, but there are two access points here proposed. Parking requirements, they do meet and exceed the parking requirements. So parking requirements is 1 parking space per 500 square feet of gross floor area for a car wash use. They've provided 5 parking spaces. One of those is ADA accessible. There's also an additional 12 spots for folks to stop and vacuum their cars here on the site. Refuse areas, there is a screened in refuse area that's shown on the conceptual plan at the northwest corner of the development. And this is something we always double, triple check when we have a site plan application come through, make sure that the screening detail complies with the regulations related to refuse areas. So that's something we will be verifying and working with them on through the site plan application process. Utility availability, water and sanitary sewer services provided by the city of Bristol. For landscaping, we will be reviewing the landscaping plan as part of the site plan application. So we will be checking and ensuring that their landscaping plan meets all the zoning requirements. And the same with lighting. The lighting plan will be reviewed and approved through the site plan application process. So finally, the staff recommendation to the Planning Commission this evening is to approve the conceptual plan for the commercial building located here or proposed here, noting conformance to the intent of the planned business district, as well as to the Pinnacle Phase 1 master plan. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff?
So just for the entrance, egress, that, and especially coming out on 11, all that's been vetted or not yet?
That staff has reviewed the site plan. A full site plan was submitted and giving back comments to the Burwell construction for design, subject to anything the planning commission may have. On the 11W entrance exit, we did ask them to remove the arrows and the little hatched island there, because if you want 3 lanes out like they're indicating, it would have to be 36 feet wide. They also have to, and it has been at TDOT, and TDOT has yet to comment that we've seen. There is a review from TDOT going on concurrently with the site plan review. So I know this photo doesn't show it, but they're down to the bottom, the south. There is a left turn lane that will be installed going eastbound on 11W that TDOT will also have to look at and give any comments and bless that design. On Pinnacle, the only thing on the Pinnacle entrance only, it's an entrance only, is we asked that they put some do not enter signs on the property so people could see those signs prior to trying to use that as an exit. Not that will stop them from doing that, but at least they have ran past a couple of signs saying that. And the design, the curvature of it might discourage them some too, but it's just a typical TDOT, not a TDOT, but it's the similar type entrance will be built as in the other developments out in Pinnacle, the like McDonald's and Zaxby's and things like that, because there is a sidewalk down through there. So, but we did ask them to put some do not enter signs so that people can see those, that's a entrance only there before trying to exit there.
So how far down on Pinnacle Parkway before people could U-turn to come back to use that entrance?
They would have to go through the intersection down at 11W if they wanted to if they were going northbound, it's up there at Panda Express, Waffle House up there, that first one. I don't know the distance off the top of my head, but it's.
And does it have a left turn?
That one does not have a left turn at it up at that intersection. There's nothing on the other side except an embankment and the entrance to the water tank, I believe, is there. So there's no development there on that side to utilize that. But there is a median opening there at the entrance on 11W. That's the Bojangles, that median opening. So if you're coming eastbound on 11W, you can enter the car wash off 11W there.
And does that have a left turn lane?
They are installing one as part of the requirement for this site plan.
All right.
Yeah, it just doesn't show up on this page. Didn't show up on this page, trying to cram it all in there and make it readable. But that will be subject to anything on 11W is obviously subject to TDOT's blessing also. And it has a concurrent review going on with it. So.
Tim, did you say that on the Pinnacle Parkway entrance, that would be only once you're on the Parkway property, you could turn right, it wouldn't be a left turn into that?
Pinnacle Parkway is a right in only. There's no median opening across.
You're not crossing. Okay, good.
Right. It's got the, if you remember, and you can sort of see it in that slide, you can see that's the landscaping area in the middle, the median that's got all the crepe myrtles and shrubs in there. So there's not a median opening. The first median opening on Pinnacle Parkway is at the but shoot, done lost the Chinese place.
And
Express.
And
And the entrance into the bank. That's the
Yeah.
first median opening there, the Panda and the entrance to the bank. So
So this
Okay.
is Jason Boer. My only concern is the exit onto 11W and the traffic that will want to go east. My understanding is what you said, Tim, the exit will have a connection there to that median that already exists for that traffic to turn east.
yes, it's lined up with the median opening, existing median opening there
And there's a red light already there, correct?
at the next intersection. This is the median opening is the Bojangle intersection where you would turn right now to go to Bojangles.
Okay.
That's what the 11W intersection. You can barely see it on the drawing. Let me turn on the laser pointer here and see if I can get it. But you can barely see, it just doesn't show up well. If my laser pointer will allow me, but you can just barely see right there's the eastern nose of the existing median opening. And then the
Okay,
other, the other
so there-
is over
Go ahead.
here.
So there is no red light there currently.
No.
There's already a lot of
wouldn't be.
traffic that makes
There
that
wouldn't.
loop there. If I'm at the right intersection, it seems like there's a lot of traffic that turns right and then makes the U-turn back up east.
Oh, that's my laser pointer's not wanting to cooperate, but that's over here at this intersection at the Pinnacle. That's where everybody's making a U-turn now to go back east at the traffic light. The lane that turns into the fire station, Weigel's, the National Business College, or whatever the business college is called now.
You're right. I've been out there so many times. You'd think I would remember that. So, all right. Thank you.
Yep.
So I don't know, are we still asking questions or are we starting to discuss?
We can continue asking questions if you have some. Does anybody else have a question? Hearing-
just one quick one, and it may be premature, but this car wash, is it going to be like a full service style or just kind of like you see at the Wash and Shine and places like that?
I'll let Mr. Prince answer that question for you, if that's okay.
It's an automated car wash that you will drive your car through and do your self vacuuming and stuff. It's not a full service detailing facility.
No, just similar to what others are doing.
Similar to what others are doing with different technology.
Okay, good. Just curious. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Prince? Hearing none, do we have any discussion?
I'll just say several things. Concern about how many cuts. I know TDOT controls them, but this area, I was concerned about First Bank and Trust. I think it does add to the congestion. So this side of going to the other side of the light, I think helps a little bit. And with that, Tim, I don't know, I went out to look at it today, and as soon as people get off the interstate where it's problematic, going toward the Pinnacle, they have a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. And with all this development, I don't know what we can do to ask if it's TDOT that regulates, but definitely lower the speed limit through this area. You can't hardly go 45 anyway, but with it being dangerous, with all the entrances and exits, et cetera, I think it really should be evaluated to lower to 35 or whatever for through the intersection. east and west of the intersection. The other thing I'll just editorial comment, the Pinnacle has developed as a really attractive, heavily landscaped, nice to be proud of. And we don't have any drawings of what the car wash will look like, but I just think it's sad to have all that. And then at our entrance, we're going to have a car wash. So to me, that's just disappointing to have that as the choice of what's going to go in there. So editorial comment. I assume we have no choice, right? We just have choices on what the site plan is, Tim, right? Not
it's an allowed use under that zone. So,
yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Mr. Staten, this is Takai. I have a quick question for Mr. Prince. May I ask it?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Prince, are there any safeguards to be put into place to prevent people from going down the Pinnacle Parkway and using the car wash as a shortcut to not make that right turn on red?
Well, Tim mentioned that we'll have a do not enter sign, or just, this is, it's not an exit, so we'll sign it appropriately one way. But as far as any type of safeguard or barrier that prevents them from slipping through the car wash, we do not have anything planned at this time.
I think, Mr. Prince, what Takai was asking is, are you worried about people, instead of going to Pinnacle Light there at 11W on Pinnacle Boulevard and making a right toward Kingsport, of them shortcutting through the car wash to get to 11W?
Yeah, I don't think we don't have a concern with that because of Tim mentioned the radius that we're going to put through there and trying to maneuver through that parking lot. I think people will find it was still quicker to go down and take the right-hand turn onto 11W.
Just as a follow-up to that, this is Jason Boer. I'm glad there's more development coming to Bristol. My only concern is the ingress and egress. And one thing to note is, having made the turn out of Chick-fil-A many times, there was ultimately a sign placed there that says no left-hand turn, but that has not stopped anybody from making a left-hand turn out of Chick-fil-A. And so that curvature is very important as far as I'm concerned, to make sure that people don't even attempt to make the left-hand turn, or it's going or not even a left-hand turn, but going back out on the right-hand. Because usually when I'm leaving the Pinnacle, which is a good thing, traffic is backed up way past the point of where this cut in would be for the car wash, and I just see it being very problematic if it's not mitigated correctly. People don't read signs and they don't follow them.
No. So what's the answer?
But I think, Mr. Prince, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think the biggest usage will come from 11W and not coming from Pinnacle.
Tim, based on all of the survey and the projections, is that the majority of the traffic will come from 11W, and that we do feel like that entrance into this facility is important off of Pinnacle Parkway, but we don't feel like that's by far not the major entrance, but we do feel like it will be used as people are exiting.
Tim, is there a U-turn allowed at the red light if you're coming east on 11? Is there a U-turn allowed there at that light to go back west, like you try to go back and maybe enter?
Gosh, Bill Prince, do you remember? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think the U-turn is allowed there, yes.
Okay.
I know going westbound on 11, you can make the U-turn.
Yeah.
And I just can't remember out of Pinnacle.
I can't remember either. No.
I won't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure it is still allowed to make both ways. You can do U-turn at the light.
So people coming down 11 could just whip back around that way to get in it, which is correct. Be good for them. I mean, have a way in.
Okay,
not
do we
direct-
have any?
One more thing, they're not directly connected, and I don't know what can or cannot be done, but the what I refer to as the Starbucks entrance to the Pinnacle, if that could be only an entrance and not an exit, that, in my opinion, is what creates a lot of the problems when you go down to the main entrance of the Pinnacle with those people that are making a left-hand turn there at that boat, that fire hall loop back at the Weigels. But I just throw that in there for a comment.
Well, certainly that has been identified by several people, and we've worked with the state, tried to get options with the state on remediating that issue, and still are working with them, and as well as the developers on looking at options there. The biggest resolution currently the state has in the transportation program, the extension from Pinnacle Parkway all the way down to the racetrack, that improvement. And that would allow a road, Pinnacle Parkway, to go by the fire hall and connect down at Walnut Hill Island Road, and thus ultimately, once that's built, allow us to close the median opening there at Island Road. And that's going to be the biggest help. And then the weaving issue at that time, coming at the off ramps, there's an I-81 study going on, corridor study, that we have raised that issue of looking at that weaving patterns of the off ramps for to that study. So we'll see what comes out of that corridor study with TDOT. But the staff and the city and the developer, we've all been trying to identify opportunities for improvement out there because of the congestion.
Okay, are there any more questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll open this up for the public comment. And so we'll pause for 30 seconds to see if anybody calls in. Okay, seeing how we have no one wishing to make a public comment, we're prepared for a motion. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Jason Boer.
Yeah. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Can we clarify that motion is to take staff's recommendation? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call. Mr. Graham is not participating. Madeline Luttrell.
Yes.
Joel Staton is yes. Jason Boer.
Yes.
Kevin Buck is not participating. Scott Gaynor.
Yes.
Takai Shu.
Yes.
Mark Webb is not present. Margaret Fire-Robin.
I am voting yes. We didn't ask for any further discussion. Mine would be that overall not real happy, but it's not a choice. So for the site plan itself, I'm voting yes.
Thank you very much. Motion passes, sir. I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The next two items on the agenda are rezoning requests, which are Sullivan County in nature. Once again, to the public, if there's anybody that's going to want to address either one of these issues, I would go ahead and call in now and get in the queue. First one up is 1809 Highway 11W.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, up for consideration next is the rezoning of property at 1809 Highway 11W from B4 to B3. That's down, if y'all know where Ross Pre-Stressed Concrete is on 11W. It's in front of that development. We do have one of the applicant, Mr. Baker, Rick Baker here to answer any questions you may have. He is here at the annex, and if you have any questions, we can stick him on the computer. He doesn't necessarily have any comments other than if you have questions specifically for him. But with that, I'll let Ms. Young give the presentation.
Thank you, Tim. So again, the request here tonight for this parcel at 1809 Highway 11W is to request your consideration to rezone from B4, which is the Sullivan County Arterial Business Service District, to B3, the General Business Service District. So I'll start with just an explanation of process here. The rezoning process when it applies to a Sullivan County parcel is that because it's in the urban growth boundary, the City of Bristol Planning Commission reviews the application request and makes a recommendation that's then forwarded to the Sullivan County Commission for a final decision. The County Commission takes Planning Commission consideration under review when they make their decision, but they're not bound by the recommendation and can either vote to approve or disapprove the rezoning once it gets to them. So that's the process tonight. So here is a map, overview map that shows both the location of the parcel, which is hatched in red, and the zoning of the area. So in this area, you do have some A1 zoning, you have some B4 zoning, which is indicated by the orange brown color on your map. You have some M1 that's in behind this parcel that's up for request tonight. So you have a variety of zones here right in this little pocket along Highway 11W. So there's multiple different zones. The next slide shows the existing zoning and existing land use in the area. So as you scan down what exists in the area, you see the M1, you see the B4, you see the A1. There's a variety of uses here. You have the historical auto sales use on the subject property. You have some industrial use with concrete manufacturing, freight delivery and services. You have a heavy duty truck sales business. You have community use, and then you have some vacant land. So there's quite a few different things going on right here in this area. Next is a photo of the subject parcel. So this is looking at the parcel from Highway 11W. And then a overview of the City of Bristol future land use map. So this shows the entire corridor, the 11W corridor, in red, which indicates a commercial land use classification for the future land use map. So staff analysis, staff feels that the rezoning is consistent with the future land use plan. As it is all in red here, all shown commercial, we feel like the Sullivan County B3 zone does fit the future land use map. If this were in the City of Bristol, we would recommend the B3 zone as well. If it were to be, not to suggest it is, but if it were to ever be annexed or to come into the city, it would, our direction would be B3. We considered, and I know at least one or two folks may ask, what about the spot zoning question? If you remember looking at that map, there was no real B3 on the map until you get back down into the City of Bristol. So would this be considered a spot zoning? So I'm gonna just walk through a couple of questions here that we asked ourselves when we looked at whether this would be considered a spot zoning. So would the classification be different from the majority of the surrounding area? The existing situation here, you could see has a multitude of zones. You have manufacturing, industrial, B3, A1. So you have a little bit of everything going on. And we'll look just in a minute at the different permitted uses in each zone, but staff does not feel that the introduction of a B3 parcel would create a more intense impact on surrounding parcels than the B4 zone already does. And the applicant's request, which Mr. Baker may can speak to if he wishes, but he wants to do auto sales and to be able to do auto service here. The B4 zone, which I'll show you in just a second, does not allow for the auto service element of his business. So we don't feel, staff doesn't feel that the use classification is that different from what's already going on or more intense than anything going on in this area already. So next slide, would the rezoning be consistent with the future land use plan? As I stated just a few minutes ago, with this all being commercial out here on this corridor, we do feel that it would be appropriate to assign a B3 zone here. And if this were ever in the city of Bristol, B3 is what we would assign the zone in the city of Bristol. Okay, and then finally, is the reason for the rezoning for the sole benefit of the property owner? And I know there's a lot going on this slide, but what we put up here is the stated purpose of each zone, B4 and B3. And what you have is not a whole lot of difference between the B3 and B4 zone. The B4 zone is to be located along arterial routes and to serve the need of the motoring public as well as the local community. The B3 purpose is to be located along arterial or major collector routes, and it's to serve a wide range of commercial uses. Obviously, as the owner of the property, the rezoning does benefit the owner because it allows for him to expand the line of business he wants to conduct here. But we don't feel that rezoning it to B3 introduces a bunch of new or greater intense uses that would generate problems for the surrounding property owners. So I'll zip through just a quick summary of the permitted uses. This is the uses that are allowed in the B3 and B4 zones. So you can scan down the left column here of the permitted uses. You can do duplexes, lodging and boarding houses, automotive, parking, sales, some business uses, office uses, retail trade uses. You can do self-storage, mini warehouse, restaurants, and then some agricultural uses in both these zones. The special permit uses are on the right side column. Both zones allow these items by special use permit. So multifamily, administrative services, child care, religious facilities, and then some limited manufacturing. But then just to be really clear about how few differences there are between these zones, this is the permitted use table out of the Sullivan County Zoning Ordinance, and highlighted in yellow are the differences. So there's just a handful of differences in the B3 zone versus the B4. You'll look, if you scan down the list, you can actually do a single family dwelling in the B3 zone. You can't do that in the B4 zone. You can do a funeral home with a special use permit in the B4 zone, but not in the B3. And then if you look over on the right side of the screen, and I don't know why this is, but on the right side, the table on the bottom, if you look under commercial activities, you'll see automotive body and repair shops. You can do these as a permitted use in the B3 zone, but not in the B4 zone, which is, maybe seems like they would have included that in their B4 as well, but they didn't. And that's what's prompting the request for the rezoning tonight. So that just highlights the few differences between those zones. And so back to the spot zoning question, based on that criteria that we asked when we look at these rezoning requests for a single parcel that's zoned one thing or another, this is kind of what we walk ourselves through to answer that question. And we don't think in this case that we would have a spot zoning here. So on to public comment. We actually haven't received any inquiries about this one. As of today, no comments from the public, no questions. So the staff recommendation to Planning Commission is for the favorable recommendation to Sullivan County for this request. And that's based on the fact that that parcel aligns with the commercial character of the surrounding area and complements the city's future land use plan.
Thank you very much. As a reminder to the public, if there's anybody that wants to address this issue, you need to make a phone call now to the number that's on the screen, and we will allow you to join into the discussion. Now, that being said and done, is there anybody on the Planning Commission that wants to address staff on this? Nothing? Then let's see if we're going to have any comments from the, well, let's do this. We do have the owner present. Does he want to make any comments?
Not unless you have any questions for him, Mr. Chair.
Does anybody on the Planning Commission have any questions for the owner? Seeing none, let's see if we have any comments from the public. You want to take a pause?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I feel that'd be appropriate.
We'll take a short pause while we're waiting on that. Okay, we're back. We did not have any calls from the public. Is there a motion?
Move to approve with taking staff's recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Scott made the second. So we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion that is on the floor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think that this is absolutely spot zoning. And I would have to dissent in this case, only for that reason. I am sympathetic to the plight and to the cause, but I believe that it's absolutely spot zoning.
I'd have a hard time disagreeing with you. And I'm worried about the precedence of what this would entail. Anybody else have any more thoughts?
Well, I
would just
mean,
like-
the whole area, I'd say the whole area is spot zoned. I mean, there's really no contiguous zoning in that other than A1. If you look at the future land use where you want it to be business/commercial, then I don't really have a problem with it being B4 or B3. There's really no, I don't know, any downside in my mind, whether it's one or the other.
I think from staff, our biggest perspective when we debated that, I mean, we debated the spot zoning was because the city, we have a B3 zone, B2, but we don't distinguish those subtleties between B3 and B4 like the county. If we were to ever have this be incorporated into the city, we would request a B3 zoning, which would allow that type of use in there. It is very subtle, the differences between those two zones. That's why we felt that way. I mean, just for that reason, sometimes you see there's littler nuances in the county than what would be in the city when we look at our future land use plan and map. So that is but we did discuss it, and that's why we put slides and information in your packet about spot zoning.
Humor me for a second. If you were to say this is spot zoning and the piece beside it was also being requested to rezone to the B3, would it then be considered spot zoning?
Well, I don't, it would make a bigger argument to not call it spot zoning. Let's put it that way. It's a tough one because it's just such a, if you saw that chart, it's such a subtle nuance between the two zones in the county. If you look at that, and it really, from our perspective, looking at the land use, future land use map, which we use a lot to look at, and like I said, if we annexed it, we would say B3, our most, general business, especially with the industrial setting right behind it. Even though the other things might be zoned differently, we would recommend that B3 because that's what the future land use is anticipating on this corridor from our use. I said it's a very subtle difference in that county zoning. Basically, you can have a car dealership, but you couldn't repair a car there at that spot. You could sell them, but you couldn't bring them in and if there was something wrong with it, fix it to sell it. There's this very subtle difference there in that zone. Don't know why they chose that. Sheriff, did the county indicate did they recommend or Amber say anything about this? And what was her thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that her thoughts and what she had talked with the applicant about was to make this request because because of the lack of that use in the B4 zone. I don't think she had, I think she is behind the request in terms of support. So I imagine that's what her report will be to the county commission. But I mean, it is a very unique case, given what's going on right around there. And one we really debated a lot in the office. So just to kind of ditto what Tim said, we really put forth a lot of research to be able to make that recommendation to you all. So I if there's anything similar that would come up, we would definitely put it through the same level of review that we've had with this one.
Any other discussion? There is a motion and a second on the floor.
I mean, I guess, what Kevin was suggesting there, it could be viewed as spot zoning, but then again, it's so subtle of what's proposed to go in there or a reason to change it. To me, spot zoning should be more, that's something that's totally dynamically different than what the adjoining property would be. This is so subtle. I mean, I think I'd have to move to support it.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay, there is a motion and a second on the floor to approve staff's recommendation that we go with the rezoning or send that recommendation on to the county commission. And as we have stated, we do not rezone the property. That will be done at the county commission level where they will either approve it or disapprove it. Anything else? Roll call.
Kelly Graham,
No.
Madeline Luttrell,
Yes.
Joel Staton is yes. Jason Boer,
Yes.
Kevin Buck,
No.
Scott Gaynor,
Yes.
Takai Shu,
Yes.
Mark Webb is absent. Margaret Firerobin.
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We'll go on to the next rezoning request, which is 438 Old White Top Road.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, up for consideration is rezoning from R1 to A2 requested by the Blevins at 438 Old White Top Road. This is in our urban growth boundary, and once again, similar process that we go through. With that, I'll let Ms. Young give the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Beavers. So again, the request here tonight at 438 Old White Top Road is to rezone from R1, which is the county's low density single family residential district, to A2, the rural agricultural and open space district. And I'll just have a duplicate slide. I won't go into it, but we're in the same process here with this one as we were in the previous rezoning request, where the Planning Commission recommendation tonight will be forwarded to the Sullivan County Commission for their final vote to either approve or disapprove the rezoning request. Here is an overview map that shows the location and the zoning in the area. So the parcel, rezoning parcel, is outlined in red. You can see in this area you do have some R1 zone surrounding this parcel, and then you have A2, which is back in behind the subdivision in behind the parcel. And you can see on this map that the parcel does kind of narrow down to Old White Top Road, so they don't have a huge bit of road frontage here, but they do have frontage along Old White Top Road here. This map, or this chart, I'm sorry, shows the existing zoning and existing land use in the area. So the existing zones, again, are R1, A2 in the county, and then you do have City of Bristol across the street. The existing land uses in the area, with the exception of what's located to the north, it's all single family residential, but to the north you do have Old White Top Road, and then you have land across the street which Bristol Motor Speedway uses for a campground. So here are a few site photos. This is the two slides that show the house. Those are looking from Old White Top Road at the subject driveway. So you can see there's a house located in the foreground. That's the neighbor's house. And if you look at the middle picture, if kind of back into the trees, you'll see the home of the applicants here. So that's their driveway, but their house is kind of back in the trees. And then the bottom right photo shows what's across Old White Top Road, so that you can see where the campground space is there. So just a quick summary of permitted uses in the R1 and A2 zones in the county. So these are somewhat similar. They do both allow single family detached dwellings. They allow some uses such as libraries that are the same. The A2 allows commercial golf courses. They both do allow general agriculture, but the A2 zone allows a little bit more agriculture use than the R1 zone. So the prompt for the rezoning request tonight, which you all have seen this, I guess twice now before, so this is our third one here in the last couple months, is that for folks that wish to build a larger accessory structure, they are allowed to build a larger accessory structure in Sullivan County if their property is zoned A2. So if you look at this chart, this is just straight out of the zoning resolution for the county. If you're zoned R1, you are allowed to build a 1,200 square foot accessory structure. If you're out in the A2 zone, you're allowed to build a 2,600 square foot accessory structure. So the owners here do wish to build a larger accessory structure than what the R1 zone allows. So next up, we have the future land use map. So this shows two land use classifications converging on this parcel. The red is the commercial land use classification. The purple is medium density residential. And then the kind of yellow green, as it shows up on my screen, is low density residential. So what this is showing on the parcel is a little bit of commercial land use classification towards Old White Top Road, and then the remainder of the parcel, which abuts the single family neighborhood to the south, is shown as medium density residential. So, So the staff view on this is we've got to look at all the land uses that converge here in this area. So given that there is commercial and residential, we can consider both. And we do feel that that aligns with the future land use map. We have not received any kind of public input on this request as of today. And so the staff recommendation to the Planning Commission tonight is to send a favorable recommendation to the County Commission for this request.
Thank you very much. Again, from the public, if anybody wants to call in to discuss this, now would be the time to make the phone call. Is there anybody on the Planning Commission that wants to address the recommendation or the project?
But for some reason, it seemed like it's kind of odd that we're seeing a lot of these type requests, some of these large parcels of property. It just, I don't know, it just seems strange to me, but maybe it's not.
Sheriff, when did the county change their accessory structure? Do you have that in front of? It's been recently.
Yeah, it was actually in, I believe it was February of 2020. So they've made those changes about a year and a couple months ago. So yeah, I think that we've seen a couple, and I'm going to guess we'll see a couple more.
Especially on the larger parcels where people, you know, the ones you saw before were to do some farm equipment and things, changes. So, I mean, it's on the larger tracks, that's where I feel we'll see more and more of these requests come in.
If these type changes, do they stop any residential developers on these parcels?
They wouldn't. They'd still both be single family developments that could go on there on the properties. So if they chose to, on this property where they would be more constrained would be they'd have to extend a road into the development to subdivide off of it because of the shape of the lot. So it might be cost prohibitive to do that, depending on the numbers of lots you could get off that property, but it doesn't constrain them from doing that type of development, correct?
So generally speaking, you could still develop single family homes on it.
Yes, that's an allowed use if I remember, Sheriff, on there.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Does this in any way change the property taxes?
It would still be taxed residential, or they may have an agricultural exemption for all we know, but you know, it doesn't look like they hay or do anything on their agriculture, but it's based on the actual use, not what could be used on the property. So.
Got to throw some cows on there, Kelly.
Don't say that, I'm getting hungry. Okay. Any other comments or questions of staff? If not, we'll pause for 30 seconds to see if we get any calls from the public. All right, we're back. We have not had any phone calls. I don't believe we have any more discussion from the Planning Commission to staff. So let's have a motion.
Move to approve staff's recommendation to forward a positive recommendation for this rezoning.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Once again, City Council has made the motion in the second.
Sounds like a sportscaster.
Oh, I can go into that voice. Okay, is there any other discussion of the motion that is on the floor? Hearing, seeing none, roll call.
Kelly Graham,
Yes.
Nayland Luttrell,
Yes.
Joel Staton is yes. Jason Boer,
Yes.
Kevin Buck,
Yes.
Scott Gaynor,
Yes.
Kai Shu,
Yes.
Mark Webb is absent. Margaret Firerobin.
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
And again, that is merely a recommendation to the county commission. They will decide what they want to do. Other matters, city council update, including a county commission update.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just some information from the April 6th City Council meeting. At that meeting, approved were both the resolution for annexation and the plan of services for 2467 Weaver Pike. And once the council approved that, that became effective immediately. So 2467 Weaver Pike has been added into the corporate limits for that property. Also approved in association with that on first reading was the zoning assignment to that property for R1A zoning. The public hearing and second reading will take place at the May 4th City Council meeting. Also, the second reading and public hearing took place for the special use permit text amendment. And that would be the main thing being sunsetting the special use permits. That was approved at the April 6th City Council meeting and will become effective April 23rd. So this Friday, that will be effective, that change in the text for special use. Also approved at that meeting and a public hearing was held was the rezoning of 121 Bluff City Highway to B3, and that will become effective April 23rd. And finally, at the City Council, the Willow Street abandonment, it didn't have to have a public hearing, but second reading passed for the Willow Street abandonment, and that also will become effective April 23rd. From the county, we did have the one rezoning of the Still property on Weaver Pike and Highway 394. The Planning Commission, I'm sure y'all remember, did not pass a favorable recommendation to the county. The county commission voted 17-7 to rezone the property as requested. So it was rezoned to B3. I think that's the right zone, Sheriff, if I remember correctly. So they did pass that and went from R1 to B3. So that is the updates I have for Planning Commission. If you have any questions of City Council meeting, there is a mayor on here and a former mayor both. So they are here. They can probably answer any questions you may have about their meeting.
Anybody got anything?
Nothing more, I don't think.
All right. Thank you for that update. We appreciate that. We'll just move right along to zoning ordinance project updates.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, some updates and two projects, and one we'll start diving into quicker than the other, or both. And we've got 4 balls in the air right now on things for zoning work, but 2 of them need to, we need to start working and getting your input, and I'll let Sheriff step you through them real quick. One is the landscaping ordinance. Staff's been working very hard on looking at that ordinance, and right now, if you remember, there are 2 parts to the landscaping ordinance. There's a chapter 11, and then there's a chapter 11A that gives a little bit of flexibility. And it's at best to say, putting them two together, it's very confusing for staff sometimes. So I can't imagine what it's like for the development community. And staff has been working very hard on that to update and look at how to simplify that regulation so that staff and developers, especially developers, can read through the ordinance and make sense of it a little bit easier. We're also looking at the floodplain ordinance, and this come out of our CRS. We have a CRS community rating system audit coming up and this fall. And we do need to update our floodplain ordinance to make a subtle change from the last time it was adopted. And with that, I'll let Sheriff run through these real quick. And really, we want to give you all some homework for y'all to be thinking about. So you can either start discussion of some of the things tonight, or you can think about it, and we'll dive headlong into especially landscaping at the next planning commission meeting. With that, Sheriff, if you can run them through it.
Thank you. And I'll be really brief because Tim did a great job introducing that. But we just want to take just a second and kind of give you a little bit of a where we are with a couple different projects for zoning ordinance updates. You might have gotten your agenda and been relieved that temporary signs and adaptive reuse weren't on the agenda tonight. That's because we've been working to take all of the feedback and good conversation that the Planning Commission has had the past couple months, and we're trying to sort of hammer it out into a little framework ordinance that we can bring back to you all to review. So that's where those two projects are. We're just kind of down to the nitty-gritty with some of the language changes now with those, and then we'll certainly be bringing those back. But the two new projects we just kind of wanted to get in front of you and introduce to you tonight are, like Tim said, related to the floodplain ordinance and then the landscape ordinance. The floodplain district ordinance is chapter 7 of our zoning ordinance. And this largely works in the background. So it's not something that the Planning Commission are really, it's not really an issue that rises to the level of discussion a whole lot because it just regulates property that is in the flood zone for the floodplain district in the city. But it's very important to people who own property in the floodplain district. There's different and many regulations related to it if you do own property that's subject to this floodplain district ordinance. And what we're going to do, or what we've been, what we're required to do, is as a participating community in the community rating system, which is a voluntary program, the city, in order for residents to obtain flood insurance, the city has to have a flood ordinance, which we have. But because the city goes above and beyond in some certain measures and in some public outreach measures, particularly, people who do have a flood insurance policy get a 10% discount on that policy. So when we say the CRS rating system, we're talking about some over and beyond measures that the city does in order for folks to get a discount on their flood insurance policies. So the changes that are going to come to you to review are going to be very largely technical in nature. There's not a substantial, or really there's not any big monumental ideas that are going to come with this floodplain text amendment. But the one required thing that we're asked to make to stay a participating community in this CRS discount program is to require by ordinance that if you have floodplain property and you're adding new electrical, mechanical, any kind of equipment, that it be elevated 1 foot above your base flood elevation. So that's a matter of practice now. So we've been practicing that, but our ordinance does not formally stipulate that. And as part of this audit, Tim alluded to, we have been required to make this change to our ordinance. So we'll be bringing that required change to you all here in the next little bit. And then also we're working with the state, who has a state model ordinance, to incorporate any changes or revisions that they've made in the past 10, 11 years since this ordinance has last been updated. So I don't expect anything big or, a huge big, there's no big idea changes in here. It'll be largely technical, but we'll be bringing that to you very soon. It's something we'll need to get adopted this summer, later summer. And then the second project is related to our landscape ordinance, which you see on the screen here. We have in two parts. So there's a Chapter 11, Chapter 11A. Chapter 11's been on the books for a while. Chapter 11A was developed in 2009. So some of you all might have been on the Planning Commission or around when that chapter was developed. It was developed to provide some flexibility from the Chapter 11 requirements. So you can guess, when given flexibility, what people chose to use is the more flexible ordinance. But it does create some confusion and some, there's just some odd, items missing from each that, if combined and clarified, they probably worked together great and be less confusing for both staff and certainly for the development community. So our intent and what we've been working on with this is really, again, we've not introduced any like big major radical landscaping changes, but more or less to just try to really clean up and clarify the ordinances and make them easier to read and use for both developers, folks preparing landscape plans, and then staff in terms of interpretation. So those will be coming to you here in the next few meetings. Does anybody have any questions about those?
And the biggest thing on landscape and your homework assignment is, those regs have been in place for a while. And if there are things that you all have noticed over those years that you would like to incorporate in any change to that, it would be nice to know that, other than us trying to clean it up and make it easier to use that ordinance. So if there are other things you would like to discuss and try to incorporate in that, obviously that would be the time to do that, from things you've seen over the years of it being in operation, that particular ordinance. So that's your homework assignment, is to think about that issue, landscaping, and read the reg, ask us questions, call us, ask us, talk with us if you don't understand something in it, because between the two chapters, it has some conflicting things and some confusion, some verbiage that's not the best. So once again, our whole goal is to try to make it easier if we hand you something and talk to you something, that you could actually read it and understand it, because we debate it sometimes ourselves still, some of the things in there. So
Very good. Margaret, not to put you on the spot, but off the top of your head, because you've dealt with landscaping as much as anybody, is there anything that you would think that we should think about on landscaping?
I have not looked at the ordinance, but yes, I was around when we first adopted landscaping requirements, and very pleased that we did. I think we've revised at least one time fairly significantly. And anyway, no, not yet. So I need to look at it and see. So, and it certainly has made a difference on what our community looks like.
It has. Okay. Thank you on all of that. Training update.
okay, you have your sheet. If you see an error, please report it to us and let us know. Right now in the lead, I think we have Joel Staton's in the lead with 2.5 hours at least on here. So
Nope. Actually have 4, Tim.
oh yeah, you have the one you just reported to us.
Well, the future of mobility.
Yes. So there's some additional. So Joel is really taking the lead. So he's setting an example for everybody. Please remember, within 1 year of appointment or within 1 calendar year thereafter, you have to have a minimum of 4 hours, and one of those have to be the property rights training, which Danielle does such a great job at toward the end of the years.
So Joel, do you recommend any of the trainings you've done?
Oh, yeah, they're great. The, let's see, the first one was, let's see,
Gray to green.
Gray to Green, which
Right.
was good. Then the Future of Mobility was good about how we're going to have to adapt for certain circumstances.
Where did you pick up on that particular something?
It is the, oh, hang on.
Smart growth or the,
Yes, the smart growth.
Okay.
I was,
So one easy one that several of y'all have taken advantage of is that BZA training that Danielle did. So you can watch that on the YouTube channel, or there's a link down here to it you can get to on the page. So please make sure to get those hours in.
You got it. Is there anything else? Anybody? Any comments, thoughts?
just also back to the Pinnacle area, is that appropriate to, Tim, can you follow up and just ask about speed limit evaluation?
I'll speak with Metzger, but that might have to be do you remember, and Malin, you probably weren't on council, but when we lowered it to 45, was that through council action? Do you remember, Margaret?
I don't remember, but if we're having conversations with TDOT about that whole intersection anyway, that would be great to add that if it's a TDOT.
I just can't remember the process, but I'll ask David and we'll get information back to you on that of the process. And I just couldn't remember. I mean, I remember doing the 45 in Old Jonesboro. We did down to 30 mile an hour through a section.
Yeah.
Do you remember if that was council discussion either? I just can't remember. I've slept too many times since then.
Yeah, it also may depend, like 11 being highway might be TDOT and is Old Jonesboro Road.
Yeah, I'll have to speak with Metzger. So I just
anyway. But yeah, if that can be, and I don't know, I know there's process for evaluation, so it's not just that we ask and can happen. It has to be evaluated to be appropriate.
I think the Old Jonesboro Road was staff done. We had the discussion about the subdivision of all the driveway cuts. And then lo and behold, 45 days later, it had been reduced.
I totally agree with lowering the speed limit there at the 11W at the Pinnacle, even as far as from the Friendship dealerships
Right.
to beyond the Pinnacle.
Right. Right.
Or at least between the two red lights, maybe.
Yes.
Kind of gets the on and offs there.
Right.
So anyway, I'll find out and report back through the appropriate channels, whatever that may be.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I just comment on the speed limit changes. I would be in favor of spot speed limits. But the idea of taking an entire stretch of road, like 394, for example, all the way out and from the Speedway towards Bluntville, and like coming from the 126 intersection all the way to the Pinnacle I would not be in favor of lowering it to 35 for that or anything like that.
No.
But where there is a problematic intersection, I'm definitely in favor of right there from the 81 interchange, somewhere in that vicinity out to to the Pinnacle entrances in that little area beyond maybe where PALS is.
Which of course we planning commission for sure don't get to vote on it, and whether we even get to as city council, but just being smart about it and with development, reevaluating it.
All right. Anything else?
We do not know the governor what he will do about electronic meetings. We will let you all know when he had, I think they expire April 28th, the ability to do it, and don't have a feeling whether he will extend that or not. So we may be live next month. Just keep that in mind on your calendars, and we'll let you know as soon as we find out what it is. If we are live, probably we'll be at the Slater Center so we can space out and do some social distancing better than here in the annex conference room.
Yes, and Tim, I felt quite comfortable in there the other day when we had the BZA meeting.
That was a good setup for the
Yes.
size board. But Terry Napier and his group are wonderful at getting things set up, and Shane, I know you're on here too, so they do, and Luttrell, they do a wonderful job at it and accommodate us very much and have the council through various iterations of meetings and hybrids, and it's just a wonderful staff. I mean, great people to work with. So, but we'll let you know as soon as we find out. We'll let you know and make a decision. I'll talk with Chairman Graham and see what he wants to do.
Let's ask everybody, if we have a choice one way or the other, how do people feel? Which would you rather do?
I'd like to go in person myself.
I would like to go in, well,
Whatever's easiest on the staff.
I'm vaccinated. I don't care.
Yeah,
Double shot, yes.
yeah, double shot by then.
I've had both.
Yeah.
So I hear the majority of you would like to, either way, seems like the majority of you would like to go in person. And we can plan it that way and get it set up. So if that's what I'm hearing, the majority of y'all saying, that's what we'll do. We'll plan on in person. Once again, it'll be at Slater Center. I do believe that will be prudent on our behalf. So we'll get that information out to you as we can make plans for it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? We're dismissed.
Thank you very